The parents of a week-old baby who died at a hospital trust in Kent call for an inquiry after a coroner rules his death was wholly avoidable. Harry Richford died at a hospital in Margate. The coroner said neglect contributed to his death, adding to his parents' pain.
Words can't do it justice, but we've suffered a lot over the last couple of years, and we hope that today is the start of a new beginning for us.
We'll be looking at the state of maternity services in the UK. Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. A coroner has ruled that the death of a baby boy a week after he was delivered at a hospital in Kent was wholly avoidable. Harry Richford died at the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother Hospital in Margate in 2017. The Trust say they wholeheartedly apologise for the failings in Harry's care. It comes after the BBC revealed yesterday that there have been at least 7 preventable baby deaths at the East Kent NHS Trust. With more, here's our social affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan, a warning his report contains flashing images.
We didn't get to hold Harry until the day that he died. I'm so glad we got to spend those 7 days with him and see him.
It means he was a real living human being for those 7 days, and that means everything to us.
Tom and Sarah should have their toddler son buzzing around them on their seaside walk, but a catalogue of maternity failures robbed the young couple of Harry within days of his birth.
If Harry had brain damage similar to what he had when he died and he was under my care during those 7 days, I would be held accountable for that, but nobody has at the hospital.
It all went wrong in this maternity unit over a 2-hour period one November night. First, a locum doctor described as out of his depth delayed delivering the baby. The coroner said he should never have been in charge that evening.
He never had his CV checked by a consultant, as was the process. It doesn't feel like a very safe culture or a safe environment if that's the case.
Harry was born pale and floppy, but he would have survived and been healthy if a paediatrician hadn't failed for 28 minutes to properly resuscitate him. Everyone in theatre was panicking.
The anaesthetist came up to me and said to me, "I'm going to put you under general anaesthetic," and I was glad that he was going to do that because I didn't want to be in that room anymore. I've had to live with that for a long time because it meant that Tom had to leave the room, having seen Harry being resuscitated, because it was not a nice atmosphere to be in, and it was panic. It didn't feel like anybody was really in control.
Gravely ill, Harry was transferred to a nearby intensive care unit, but he never recovered, and his parents were advised to turn off his life support system.
It was the worst week in our life in some respect because you don't want to make that decision for your baby, but at the same time, you don't want your baby to grow up not having a good quality of life.
East Kent Hospital's Trust today apologised for the care that provided. They didn't address, however, why they'd initially recorded Harry's death as expected and had refused for months to tell the coroner of his case. Both decisions would have meant they faced less scrutiny over the care they had provided, but they didn't account for the determination of Harry's family to get to the truth. Now personally vindicated, their focus today was to ensure other families don't suffer as they have.
We don't want this to be like all of the prior cases which we heard about yesterday when the news broke. There were a number of cases which the BBC investigated and they found out. All of those cases, had they learned from those cases, we wouldn't be stood here today because Harry would still be alive and well.
Harry Richford, Tom Richford ending that report there. Well, Michael is with me now. And what about mothers who are expecting to give birth at that hospital? Should they be worried?
Well, it's important to remember at the outset that the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of women in this country have a safe and healthy experience in giving birth. And there's a lot of work being done to make things better. There's an initiative called Each Baby Count, which aims to improve the investigations into incidents that go wrong so that they go wrong less often. That said, we are not as good when it comes to maternity outcomes as many of our European neighbours. And we have all heard about the scandals at places like Morecambe Bay and Shrewsbury and Telford, and there is clearly a problem at East Kent. There is national data that indicates that mortality rates for stillborns and newborns are higher in that area than in similar units, and as we reported last night, there have been at least 7 preventable deaths there since 2016. The Care Quality Commission have gone in and are launching a criminal investigation into that trust over the care they provided to Harry, and they had an unannounced inspection this week because of concerns they have over maternity care in Margate in particular. What the Trust are saying is that if you are a pregnant woman in that area and you have got any concerns, you should approach your midwife.
Michael Buchanan, thank you.
The Health Secretary has rejected claims that the NHS is in crisis after fresh controversy at 2 health boards. Special measures imposed on NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde have been escalated amid ongoing concern about its performance. The health board has faced criticism over its infection control procedures after the deaths of 2 children at the city's largest hospital complex. Meanwhile, NHS Highland is to get its 3rd chief executive in just over a year. Our correspondent David Henderson reports.
It's Scotland's biggest hospital campus and it's facing more scrutiny than ever before. The death of 2 young patients here led to sweeping measures to control infection, but it's clear officials are still not satisfied that the service is running smoothly.
Well, I'm in no doubt the performance of Greater Glasgow and Clyde Health Board on these areas is simply not good enough, and I'm not prepared to wait any longer for them to improve that without that direct intervention and support. And the reason for that is it's not good enough for patients.
It's 2.5 years since Millie Main and Mason Jamat died, just a few weeks apart. Both had been treated on a ward affected by water contamination. An internal inquiry showed up dozens of other infections that may have been linked to the water supply. Today's decision means there'll be extra oversight of almost everything that goes on in these hospital buildings. Officials won't just focus on infection control. Now they'll look at everything from medical care through to the hospital culture and its leadership. When things go wrong, a stricken health board can face 5 levels of oversight. The Stage 4 ranking here highlights major concerns over waiting times, unscheduled care and out-of-hours care.
Well, the issues in the health board are extremely serious, and we've seen Jean Freeman being too slow to take action. We've seen lots of baby steps. Today's a step in the right direction, but it hasn't gone far enough. No one's been asked to leave.
I think it just demonstrates the real lack of leadership which Jean Freeman and SNP ministers are showing. Across Scotland now we have over half of our health boards in special measures. That shows you that this is a real strategic problem.
Another health board, another controversy. NHS Highland's chief executive Ian Stewart is to leave his post after less than a year in the job. The board's been dealing with the aftermath of a report into bullying at NHS Highland.
We had built up a very good relationship with Ian Stewart and we felt that he understood the bullying issue well. So we're disappointed to have lost that relationship and that memory. But perhaps his departure may reflect the slow pace of change in addressing the recommendations of the Sturrock Review. So there's some sadness with him going, but also some opportunities.
It's the time of year when our health service faces its greatest pressure, but this winter may have brought even more of a challenge than usual. David Henderson reporting Scotland.